they could seize the levers of power of the government and end our democracy. And I know that sounds like sky is falling stuff. It's not. It's the plan. It's 2025. That's what they want to do.
It's Ken Harbaugh. Just got back from Ukraine in time for the final stretch of our presidential election. Today, I want to share a conversation I had with one of the smartest people I've ever met when it comes to political messaging. The genius of Billy Ray is that he not only understands the thinking behind multiple sides of our political arguments, he also understands storytelling better than anyone I know. And there's a good reason for that. Billy Ray is, at heart, a storyteller. He's a Hollywood screenwriter and has written screenplays for some of the biggest hits of the last few decades, including The Hunger Games, Captain Phillips, The Comey Rule, and others. It was Billy Ray who convinced me years ago when we first became friends that the way to win in politics is not with statistics or analysis, but with stories that are true and personal and can break through the emotional barriers that we so often erect during political arguments. Billy is also just an incredible human being and a friend, and has been a huge inspiration for me in this work. Here is me and Billy Ray. Ken Harbaugh with the Midas Touch Network here at the Democratic National Convention in Chicago with Billy Ray, one of the smartest people in politics when it comes to political messaging. What are the Democrats getting right here?
They're getting so much right. They're talking about freedom.
Yes.
Which is the most important thing. You know, if you poll Americans on what values mean the most to them, freedom is number one, and it's not close. Freedom outpolls justice by 22 points.
Wow.
When guns stopped being a safety issue and started being a freedom issue, that debate was over.
Yeah.
When vaccines and masks stopped being a health issue and started being a freedom issue, that debate got pretty weird too. Americans don't like to have their freedoms taken away. And it's a word that the Democrats have ceded to the Republicans long ago for no reason at all. And now that Dobbs is an issue, a very personal freedom that's been taken away by Republicans, and everybody knows it, that word is fair game again, and I think they're really smart to use it.
Talk about that contrast. I'm sure you watched the RNC and picked up on their messaging approach. How are you parsing the vibe difference between the two approaches to speaking to the American people?
Well, let's separate out two things. There are Republicans who care about things that Democrats care about. There are Republicans that care about community and care about education and care about health care and care about the environment and care about gun safety. Those things are all true. But they're voting for someone who cares about none of those things.
Yeah.
And so to me, their messaging is completely immaterial because ultimately what comes through is they support Trump, who is anti-democratic. And once that becomes the standard bearer of your party, I don't think your messaging matters much because the message of that party is MAGA. The message of that party is Trump. And as long as that is true, they're going to lose on the issues. Yeah. And what I'm finding about this is it feels alive. It feels electric. I hate to use the word that seems so offensive to members of MAGA, but it does seem joyous.
Why do you think they're so mad about that?
Why are they so mad about it?
Yeah, about the joy. Why are they so upset that someone has the audacity to bring some joy into politics?
Okay. Have you ever seen Donald Trump laugh?
No.
Right. You ever seen him hug anybody?
Not authentically.
No.
Yeah.
He's a completely joyless candidate. And they have now tied him around their necks like an anvil, which means they're not allowed to have joy in their campaign. Now, by the way, you can't run a campaign just on joy. You have to have strength. You have to have policy. She happens to have both. So for me, this is a celebration of a party that is feeling pretty good about its chances to end Trumpism forever.
Yeah.
What a blessing that would be for America. And what I'm feeling in that room is a sense that we're about to defend our country.
I want to build on your observation about the joylessness of Trump and his party.
and go so far as to say that I think the Republican Party is a reflection of its leader, and the Democratic Party is the opposite. It has selected a leader that is a reflection of the party and of the
I think
America
that's
we
very
love.
astute. I think that's very astute. But the first thing I would challenge about it is the word Republican.
Okay.
Because if you're a Republican because you liked Eisenhower or Reagan or McCain, you're in the wrong party. That party doesn't exist anymore. When I was a kid, and even into my 30s and 40s, the Republican Party stood for law and order, personal accountability, smaller government, and hawkishness on Russia.
Yeah.
And it now stands for none of those four things. So I reject the term Republican. I think it's the radical right or it's MAGA, but there are no Republicans anymore. So why would they have joy? Right? None of the things that made them join that party in the first place exist anymore. All that exists is Trump. I think even the biggest fan knows that he's childish and vile, and is not in any way speaking to them in the way that he spoke to them in 2016, which is what got them on board in the first place.
Yeah.
I think he's way off message, and I don't think he's capable of getting back.
Well, there has been a parade of Republicans here,
Yes.
talking about how they cannot go along any longer with this show, this showman, this reality TV star. You don't see the same thing on the other side. There isn't a parade of Democrats who are abandoning the party. This is a one-way street, and it portends for me, fingers crossed, a potential sea change in politics. There's been a ton of ink spilled about Kamala and Tim's, Vice President Harris's, and Governor Walz's honeymoon period. But I think it is just possible that the American people are so sick and tired of the division and angst and joylessness of the Republican Party that this ticket might be able to usher in a new era.
Well, I'll tell you what I think. I think people have been told for the last 9 years that they have to hate their neighbors over political differences. And I think they're exhausted.
Yeah.
I think they want to get their neighbors back.
Yeah. Or their parents.
Or their parents.
Yeah.
They want community again. They want to go back to a time when they were thinking about bake sales and Little League and looking after each other's kids, where they knew, where you knew that if you were on the side of the road with a flat tire, your neighbor was going to pull over to help without first checking to see if your bumper stickers matched theirs. That's what we're selling now. That's the pitch of the Democratic Party. It's community over chaos. But part of that is, if you want to get your neighbors back, you got to have your neighbors back. You got to lower your voice a little bit.
Yes.
You got to lower your guard. You got to listen a little bit more. It's the only way we're going to heal this country. And I think that's what this convention's been about, and it's the opposite of what the RNC was.
It's Ken Harbaugh. Quick break here because I have two favors to ask. We're off to a great start with the Ken Harbaugh Show on YouTube, but the podcast needs a little love. Please click the link below to follow, rate, and review. The success of shows like this really does depend on those ratings. And if you haven't yet followed me on Patreon, please check it out. It's free to sign up, or you can pitch in a few bucks a month. Every dollar goes back into this show and our pro-democracy efforts, including the reporting from Ukraine. Go to patreon.com/Ken Harbaugh. Thanks for the support.
I heard someone describe Governor Walz as your uncle if he hadn't been trapped, consumed by Fox News, right?
Yes.
It's what everyone wants out of that figure, whether it's a father figure or something like that in their lives, and it has been torn away from so many because of MAGA.
It's a very World War II image to me, right? A guy who was a soldier and a student and a football coach who won a butter carving contest, you know what I mean? And whose life has been about public service. He's unimpeachable. What is there not to like about that guy? And J.D. Vance is now going to try to make an issue out of something that he knows to be untrue about Walz's record. It is a party that is so devoid of ideas. They've got nothing but the politics of division.
Yeah.
They need you to hate your neighbor, or they can't win. And I think that's a cancer in that party.
It is. And I think it's a large part of the reason why J.D. Vance was chosen. He was just so simpatico with the grievance and the constant negativity that is in Trump's DNA, that they felt like it was a fit. You see J.D. Vance on the campaign trail, everything is negative.
Always.
The joylessness it's impossible to ignore.
The truth is, this is not about unicorns and rainbows, right?
Mm-hmm.
But politics are aspirational.
Yes.
People need to hope. And I don't see any hope on that ticket. I see a lot of anger. I see no information.
Right.
I see a lot of character assassination. I think, frankly, if they could have frozen time in July when Trump's ear was bleeding, they thought that was it. They thought the election was over. They were going to demolish Joe Biden. They probably would have. But the truth is, you don't want to hit your ceiling in July. That was his peak. That's as high as his number's going to get. He's gone nothing but down since.
Right.
Every single decision he's made since then has been the wrong decision. Every step Kamala Harris has made has been the right decision.
Yeah.
Then we're going to come out of here with a bump, right? Then there's going to be the debate on September 10th.
Who do you think's going to win that one?
Come on. And then on September 18th, he's going to get sentenced.
That's right.
Now imagine a world in which that judge says, look, you're convicted of 34 felony counts. Okay, I can't ignore it.
Yeah.
I got to sentence you to something. I'm not going to send you to jail because you're running for president, but I'm going to put you in an orange jumpsuit, every Saturday for 4 hours, and you're going to clean up garbage by the side of the road like anyone else. Imagine what that would look like, and that would be leniency based on what he's been convicted of. Imagine the presidential nominee of one of two major parties cleaning up garbage by the side of a highway in New York to work off his 34 felony convictions. That's a real possibility.
Yeah.
That could happen. No one recovers from that politically. You're dead. It's over.
He has a legion of fanatical followers, though. And you have, at least imaginatively, delved into the darker aspects of where that kind of fanaticism could lead as the author of the screenplay for The Hunger Games and a million other movies, which I love. What are you most worried about?
Well, as long as Donald Trump is on a ballot, you worry that he could gain power.
Yeah.
Because the people around him who actually do have an ideology, which he does not have,
Right.
but the people around him that do, they could seize the levers of power of the government and end our democracy. And I know that sounds like sky is falling stuff. It's not. It's the plan. It's 2025. That's what they want to do. They want to replace civil service with loyalty to MAGA. Well, that's the end of the American experiment. That's it. So that worries me as long as he is breathing and on a ballot. Short of that, I keep thinking about this great moment at the end of the Civil War. 4 years of slaughter, 600,000 soldiers killed. And there was a moment where one Confederate soldier said to a Union soldier, "You may forgive us, but we refuse to be forgiven. There is a rancor in us you little imagine. We hate you, sir." That worries me.
Yeah.
The idea that America can try to welcome MAGA back after Trumpism has been repudiated and defeated and strangled, and that MAGA may not want to come.
Yeah.
And that then they will simply be waiting for a more intelligent version of Donald Trump, a Tom Cotton, that kind of person, who actually can articulate policy in a way that Trump can't, and can seize the anger of MAGA and dress it up a little bit and make it look a little less overtly racist and exclusionary. That's a concern. 2028 is a concern.
Our saving grace, though, is that MAGA will continue to shrink because it is not a welcoming movement. It's an exclusive movement. Look at their convention versus ours.
Yes.
And the Democratic Party, if it stays on this path, will continue to grow.
That's for sure. But here's one thing that I hope people will consider. 30% of this country has always been crazy.
Okay.
Go back and look at what people were writing before the Civil War.
Yeah.
30% of this country was nuts. Before the Second World War, 30% of the country was part of the America First movement.
Yeah.
They were just gone. The day Richard Nixon left office, his approval rating was still at 29, right? There's a group of people that cannot be moved.
Yeah.
But that means 70% of the country can be. We just got to keep working on them.
Yes. I'm with you. Billy, thank you so much for joining us.
Privilege.
Great to have you.
Great to talk to you.